Hello YouTube. Today we're going to review Nightreign. I pre-purchased this last week in anticipation for yesterday's release, and I would say I was pretty hyped for it. I was really looking forward to trying it, and I was a little disappointed with the end result, even though I think it's a great game. Like, I'm not trying to be wishy-washy on this. I think it's genuinely a great game, but with a couple of caveats. So, TLDR, the game is fantastic if you're a group of three. If you're looking to have fun with your buddies and just shoot the crap for a couple of hours, just get in after work or after school, and you've got two other buddies with you that enjoy your sense of gaming, and you play multiplayer games a lot. The moment-to-moment action is very fun, and if you can communicate with each other and respond to what the game throws at you, it can lead to some pretty epic moments, I imagine, because I didn't have the opportunity to play with two other friends. But that is my main caveat. Everything else can be fixed pretty much, I think, and even the communications issues could be fixed with voice over IP, but it would still never ever be as good as you going in with two friends that you gel well with and that you understand. If not, from my point of view, and I know this is going to get a lot of shit, I don't think it's very fun to play at all, unless you've got some people to play with. So I'm going to start with the bad, and then I'm going to finish off with the good. The bad, no voice comms in a multiplayer co-op-oriented game is baffling in the year 2025. It feels so out of place. It feels like maybe I'm being too harsh, but at the same time, I feel that this is kind of unforgivable in this day and age. It makes sense for the single-player Souls-like games where, you want to get immersed into it and, not talking, just talking to other players who invade you or who you invite to fight with, communicating to them with emotes and, like, in-game methods. It feels right. But when you're playing a fast-paced co-op game such as this, I mean, it's like trying to play Counter-Strike without comms. It's like trying to play Dota 2 or imagine League of Legends without any comms. Like, it can be fun. Occasionally you get matched with, like, a couple of people who know the game well and who you kind of vibe with really well, and even without necessarily communicating, everyone's lockstep and you can advance pretty well. But I'm going to tell you straight up, that's going to be pretty rare. It's going to be pretty rare. So, yeah, my biggest problem is that there's no VoIP in the game. If they fix this, if they add it later on, it would improve the game considerably. I think it would take the game's rating, for me, from around a 5 to a 6 over 10 to about a 7. Easily. And I'll explain why that's bad. So, an example I wrote here, and I'll think of a couple of more examples as I talk to you. I matched with some randoms that were good and knew what they were doing, but it was still a bad experience because of no communication. So what ended up happening was, so everyone has to pick a class, right? And every class scales differently. Every class is good at something, and every class excels with a certain type of weapon. If you're playing Raider, for example, who is the big smash two-handed colossal weapon smash class that likes to use weapons that scale with strength primarily, you do well with weapons that are huge and that scale with strength. The issue is, in the game, as you progress, there'll be camps and there'll be chests littered everywhere, and it'll drop a lot of stuff. Like, in terms of loot, it's fine, you get a lot of loot, but let's say if I'm playing as a raider and I drop an item that's perfect for, let's say, a wilder, or one of the other classes I'm playing with, or that's good for the sentinel, there's no way for me to communicate that to them. There's no way for me to just ping the item. You can ping the map, you can open up your mini-map, and you can ping on the map, like, to say, oh, this is where we should go. But when there's no communication, it doesn't really help, except for, hey guys, I think we should go here. And your team is free to ignore it anyway. You really need to be able to ping specific drops. I have no idea how they didn't think of it. Like every single co-op multiplayer game has this. You need to be able to just, if you could just point at a weapon and say like, hey, I think you should have this. But even if they did have that, there's another problem, and that is that it's kind of hard to track where everyone's going, especially when you can lose each other on the map and there's a lot of elevation. So you can be looking at the map and see someone that seems close to you, but they'll be under a ledge somewhere. And you'll have a camp in front of you that you'll want to get into immediately and try and get some XP because you are on a very limited time. Now, I actually like the fast-paced combat, but that's something else that we're going to discuss. They could be somewhere else, clearing another camp or another boss, or they could be fighting bosses entirely. A couple of times, my teammates were fighting bosses, and I mean, it is my fault. It is my lack of awareness, but at the same time, it's a game. You know, you're going to run into all sorts of people. People are going to be even worse than me in those terms of responsiveness, and it's going to lead to the whole team having less fun as it goes along, if you know what I mean. So let's say I'm clearing my camp and I drop the perfect weapon. I need to pick up the weapon. That's good for my teammate. I need to find him, somehow get his attention in-game. And this is a fast-paced game. You're punished for not moving quickly and constantly picking up XP, right? I need to get his attention somehow. Like, you can try dropping the weapon right in front of him, and hopefully he'll notice. But even then, let's say you want to be able to say, let's say that's a part of the game that you know better than them, and you can kind of feel it. There's no way for you to say, look, you should really use this weapon. This is going to be good. Maybe the passive is really good, or because maybe they don't know what they're doing, or they don't have any time, and they're in a groove, and you're suddenly, without being able to communicate, you're trying to explain something to them. And it's frustrating. That's what I'll say about this game. It's frustrating. It's easy to get separated. Everyone ends up killing different groups of mobs, and when you pick up drops that is perfect for another player, it's hard to get their attention. That's the point I just explained. Picking up fallen players is an interesting concept, but kind of wonky in practice. So when your teammates die or get knocked out, you need to attack them, and as you attack them, they'll res up. It's a great idea, and ideally you want to use it in a position where you're fighting a bunch of mobs and someone dies, and you make one big swing, let's say, with your weapon, and you both hit your friend who's knocked out and the mobs, hopefully both rezzing your friend and hurting the mobs at the same time. And I've seen some videos on the subreddit and YouTube where people have done some clutch moves where the boss is almost dead and they have two teammates right next to them, and they make one big sweep and they take the boss down and raise both of their friends. It's amazing to see, but when it comes to actual practice, it's not as smooth. For starters, if you don't really specifically target your downed friend, and if you don't know the animation of your weapon really well, you're gonna miss your friend, or you're gonna hit your friend and miss the mobs, and it's going to lead to chaos. And like I said, that sort of thing is fun when you're chatting with friends and everyone's like, oh, no, or like they're cheering you on, or you can laugh about it. But when you're playing with two randoms and nobody knows what's going on, sometimes it's even hard to get their attention when you're on the ground. Like, yes, you get a big purple like circle that tells you where your teammates have dropped, but there isn't that sense of urgency because sometimes you're stuck in your own little thing, and you're not sure if maybe the third person in the group is going to pick up the downed guy. Or you're both down and there's one surviving person, and you don't necessarily know in that action and in the middle of everything which one to go for first. It would just help so much if they added voice over IP. Again, it doesn't make sense in a strictly co-op multiplayer game. But anyway, there are a lot of consumables that drop, and while some are great, many are kind of meh. Maybe this changes as people get more used to the game, but some of the stuff like throwing knives or whatever, for the classes I played, it's better if you don't pick them up at all. Obviously, if you know the bosses really well and you know which boss is weak to what kind of weapon enchantment, you can make use of those. Firebombs, again, if they're good against a specific mob or a boss that you're fighting, they can be good, but otherwise, it just adds to a lot of screen clutter, and There's a lot of inventory management that goes into deciding what consumables you want, and I found that I could mostly ignore consumables and do okay. And it was just easier to sort of not worry about that as much. These are some other issues apart from the communication and teamwork side of things. Very few RNG elements for a roguelike game. The map is the same with the point of interest changing location every run, but the contents of the points of interest are the same. So let's say you'll drop into a map and there'll be like some camps, and you'll get used to this very quickly. Even within 2 or 3 runs, you'll get used to it. You'll immediately be able to know what the camp entails, what its general shape will be, and what the mobs inside will be, and even where the chests are. Or you'll have a castle, sort of, and the castle is the same as the castle you played in the tutorial, so you already know what's going on. And while that's fun the first few times, I imagine, as you play on and on, it'll get a little stale. I wish there was more RNG, just different places. Maybe the map could change a little bit. Maybe the mobs could change, just... For a roguelike, it both feels like a Souls-like game where everything is planned and on rails, but at the same time, it's just the sequence of these things that you've run into are different, and it doesn't feel that good. But I am aware that this is only the start of a game, and maybe they plan to keep adding to it, and maybe with time they'll add more stuff, and they'll make things more random. But at the moment, it seems like you'll get used to everything in about 8 to 10 hours. That's what it feels like to me. There are no new weapons or consumables for the game. I was hoping to get more of the DLC weapons as well as some fresh ones. Yeah, it does feel... I think for every weapon class there's one orange tier weapon, and that's really disappointing. When I heard about the different weapon classes and whatnot, I was really expecting there to be a lot of weapons, maybe, hopefully from even other Souls games, even though most of the weapons are kind of recycled. And a couple of different weapons for this game specifically, but that's not the case. Every weapon you can find in the game, you've already seen in Elden Ring. Now, granted, no, but I don't think everyone has played Elden Ring enough times where they've used every weapon and they used every spell combo and, everything is old to them. So you will end up having to use some weapons or some spell or something that you haven't managed to use in Elden Ring before. And that could be refreshing, something that you would never consider using, you're suddenly using in-game because it kind of, you have to progress. And that's fresh, but again, it seems like there isn't that much variety, and there should be a lot more variety. Hopefully they add more with time, I hope so. And it would just be fun if they added more DLC weapons. Like, I'm a big hammer guy. I love two-handed hammers. Now, I was a little disappointed with the hammer collection. I'm not going to lie, it was a little disappointing. I would have liked to see a couple of the DLC hammers, but a couple of more of the DLC hammers. I believe there's a couple that's already in the DLC, but just in general, more items would make the game feel a lot better. Single player is very difficult. The game is clearly balanced around 3-player teams, although today I did see on Twitter that the devs have said that they're going to patch a couple of things, like making the monster scaling, the health scaling a little bit better, and giving you one automatic revive for boss fights, which should help, but there still needs to be a bit of work there. Sorry. No duos mode is a little disappointing. You'd expect that with a game like this, they would have a duos mode, but currently, no, you need to have a third person, so you would end up queuing as a double, and then hope that you get a third in. So you either play as a single player or a 3 players. There's no other in between. And I think that's a little disappointing as well. And hopefully they add duos. I saw some posts on Reddit where they mentioned that the devs mentioned that they might add duos, but it would come later. I don't know. I haven't seen it myself. I did see the post where they'll change single player myself, but I didn't see anything related to duos, so take that with a grain of salt. Now, that's the bad things that come to my mind in general. There are a lot of good things to the game as well. For starters, the 8 classes are all very different. They have incredibly different playstyles, and they all look different, and they all feel different. And it's the best part about the game. Hopefully they add more to extend the life of the game, but I think it mentions buying DLCs in the future. Like, if you buy the Deluxe Edition, you get a couple of DLCs that will be released in the future for free. So, It seems like they'll be adding more. And it is honestly the best part of the game. Every single class feels unique. They even worked in stories and like personalities to each one, and that's the kind of stuff that makes the feel fun, even though it's a co-op game and the story is on the back burner. It's still good to have different personalities and different styles of gameplay. The action is fast-paced, crisp, and responsive. A lot of people will find the fast pace of the game off-putting. I didn't. I like quick games. I like roguelites. I like being fast. Even though I enjoy the slow pace of Elden Ring, slowly exploring everything. With this one, you can jump everywhere. You can access things that you normally can't in Elden Ring. Your speed is a lot quicker than what you have in the base game. And the focus is on to keep moving and keep fighting, which feels really good. It feels fresh. It almost feels like Sekiro, but in an Elden Ring setting. So it's a lot of fun. And I think, along with the different character classes, it's one of the best parts of the game. Network performance was impressive. I was expecting a lot of issues with lag and connections, but it was very clean from the get-go. This doesn't need that much explanation. I've been playing multiplayer online games for years now. And honestly, this was one of the smoothest launches I've ever seen. I was half expecting the first hour or two to not work, but it was crisp. And not only that, there was very little lag. I didn't feel any lag. I didn't feel any loss. Things seemed very responsive. The 60 frames per second lock initially was a little disappointing to me, especially because I'm so used to a little bit more of a frame rate, but it still works. It is a Souls game, and and the 60 FPS, it feels natural to the game, so it's fine for now. It can be a bit jarring at first, but you kind of get used to it. Maybe they change that in the future. Maybe they increase the max FPS, but I think that would also have to change everything from the monster animations to the player animations, so I don't know how it's going to be with that. But in terms of lag and in terms of network stability, it was flawless. I was very surprised. While there are a few RNG elements with the game, it does seem to be enough to get a good amount of hours in before it gets stale. I would imagine that for most players, it would take you about 10 to 20 hours in-game for it to start feeling a little stale. And that's still a decent amount of playtime, right? If you're not blasting 10 hours a day for a couple of days, you've got a lot of content there. And there are a lot of unlockables and things that you can drop and things that you can change, and every class has, by the time you get used to all of the weapons, there's a fair amount of time there to sink into. So while I foresee it being a problem in the future, initially it's fine, and they could always address it. They could always release content with frequent batches, if you will, where hopefully they don't let the game get stale for too long. Maybe like a season system with ARPGs and everything. The overall game loop is fun. I personally like the pace. Like I said, I like the fast pace. I like the fast pace structure of the game. I enjoy the game loop. It's fun running around, getting loot, and then it being nights, you get a little bit of a monster rush issue. You get some waves attacking you, and then the boss spawns, and then you fight the boss, and that's a lot of fun. The moment-to-moment action and excitement really would hit different with friends. Even if matched with randoms and with voice comms, the game would clearly shine the most with friends. I mentioned this at the start of the video. Despite me not playing with friends, I could feel it when I was playing with these randoms, especially with the couple of groups that knew what they were doing. Like, it just felt like I would be having so much more fun if I could yell at them, or like in a good way. Like, point things out to them, like, oh, watch out, there's something, just your normal, regular group play stuff. There's so many things that happen instantly and from moment to moment, like I mentioned, that when you can't say anything, it just feels frustrating. It feels like your fun is severely limited. That may not be for you, though. You may be fine with the lack of communication. For me, it was a huge issue. It was a huge problem. Yes, I know, get friends, get more friends and all that, but you can't always have 2 or 3 good friends that you have with you at all times who are always accessible, who always have nothing to do at the moment. Maybe if you're younger, you can. At my age, it gets a little more difficult. And you don't necessarily have the energy or the time to meet new people on Discords and try to form a bond with them. This really feels like jump in with your mates and just hit things over the head with big weapons and laugh about it. Being able to jump and climb over obstacles is great fun. I like the fast mobility in an Elden Ring setting. It feels very fresh, self-explanatory. Mentioned it before, no need to repeat. A couple of highlights from the characters I'd like to point out. Wilder's Claw Shot is incredibly fun to play. I had a lot of fun. They make you play with Wilder in the tutorial as well, so you'll get it very quickly, and it's really fun. Grappling hooks in Elden Ring, incredibly fun. And my favorite class, the Raider. He has a special ability where he raises like a big massive chunk of stone from the ground, and then you can actually climb it and, you know, jump off it and do landing attacks on your enemies, which is fun. And when you raise the actual totem, it also hits them for a lot of damage. So yeah, overall, the game for me at the moment, it's like a 6 out of 10. If there was VoIP, maybe it would be a 7 or a 7.5. I do feel like being able to communicate with random teammates would be fun. It would actually make the experience a lot better, but you would still be at the mercy of having two good teammates that are willing to share, that are willing to play together. We all know from multiplayer games that we've played, especially when you're queuing solo, sometimes you get a great team and everything is fun and it flows smoothly, but a lot of the times people just want to shut everything out and just play their game. And while that's fine in a co-op game, it's kind of detrimental. But there is no matchmaking, there is no real MMR or anything, so at the end of the day, it's, you know, it's whatever. One thing that I did not run into was any teammates disconnecting early, so I don't know if there are any penalties for that or if you just disconnect and can queue again. I imagine if that's the case, you could run into some groups that are a problem. But in general, I didn't run into any of that. And like I said, I did get lucky with my groups. I got lucky, I got people who seemed to wanted to play together, but they just couldn't because there was no way for us to communicate. So yeah, again, to summarize, if you've got friends and if they add voice over IP, the game could feel great. I think with friends, it's an easy 9 over 10. Easy. The only thing that would be lacking if you've got a good group to play with, if you've got good friends to play with, is the game getting stale over time. And if they keep adding content to it regularly, like ARPGs do, such as Path of Exile or, you know, Diablo or the other big ones, where they add seasonal content, then it could stay fresh, and I'm sure you and your friends would have an amazing time. But until they add voice over IP, or until you get a group of friends that are willing to play with you whenever you want, I'd say it's a pass for me. So that's my review. Overall, I think we've got a lot of potential here, and I'm looking forward to see what they do with it next, but for now, it's a pass from me. Thank you.